Hello everyone, welcome back to Mind Upgraders. Today we are going to start with a really interesting story titled as The Happy Prince. So let's begin. Happy Prince is the tale of a sculpture of the happy prince that was covered with gold leaves and precious gems. The statue was placed at a height such that it overlooked the city from the top. One fine day, a swallow bird took shelter under the sculpture as he was flying to Egypt. He found out that the happy prince was not happy indeed, but was rather miserable. So the bird asked the prince the reason for his unhappiness. The prince told him that he was alive. When he was alive, he used to stay happy in his palace. He stayed uninformed of his people during his lifetime. When he died, his statue was erected high on a tall column over the city. He became sad when he started noticing the misery and the sufferings of the needy people of the city. The prince's sculpture was covered with gold and many precious jewels. His body was covered with gold leaves. His eyes had two splendid sapphires, and there was an enormous red ruby that was shining on his sword handle. The sculpture of the happy prince looked marvelous, and everyone praised the beauty of the statue. When the bird saw the prince's eyes filled with tears upon seeing the misery of the people, he decided to become the messenger of the happy prince to make him happy again. This made the prince glad that he could help the poor people with the help of that bird. At first, the prince asked the swallow to take the ruby from his sword and give it to the needy seamstress who had no money to take care of his ailing son. The bird did as commanded. The prince asked the little bird to stay and help him as he could not move from that place. On another occasion, the prince asked the bird to take out one sapphire from his eye and offer it to the poor dramatist, who cannot afford to make fire during winter to proceed with his composition. The playwright was feeling very weak and hungry, such that he could not finish his play to deliver it to the producer on time. The bird followed the prince's instructions. One day the prince noticed a match girl who was ruthlessly beaten by her father for allowing her maidens to fall in the canal. The prince's heart was filled with pain and promptly asked the swallow to suck out his another eye and help the young lady. However, the swallow was unwilling to do so, as this would make the prince totally visually impaired. But the prince insisted, and the swallow plucked it and dipped past the match girl and slipped the gem into the palm of her hand. Thereafter, the compassionate bird chose not to leave the prince, who was completely blind at this point of time. Despite the fact that the prince couldn't see the distress or the suffering of the people anymore, the bird stayed with the prince. Upon the instructions of the prince, the swallow removed the fine gold leaves from his body and offered it to the poor people. The bird obediently followed the prince's words and took out leaf after leaf of gold. Then the happy prince looked very dull and somber. Soon winter came, there was snow everywhere, and the bird became colder and colder. Despite being weary and cold, he didn't leave the prince. Eventually, he became frail and died from exhaustion. Just then, there was a sudden curious crack that came from inside the sculpture, as though something had broken. It was indeed the leaden heart of the prince that had snapped directly into two pieces at the sudden demise of the sweet and the kind swallow. The sculpture was therefore no more valuable and beautiful like before. It stood abandoned. When the mayor and the town councillors saw the dull statue of the prince, they pulled it down. Soon after, they melted the sculpture in the furnace, yet the broken heart didn't melt. Thus, it was rendered useless for them, so they discarded it where the dead swallow was lying. Soon, the god requested one of his angels to bring the most valuable things in the city. The angel brought the leaden heart of the prince and the dead swallow. The god warmly welcomed the two beings in his garden of paradise and regarded them as his charming creations. That's it for the video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. We'll see you in the next one. Here's a surprise for you that the best comments from the comment section of this video will be highlighted in the upcoming video of our channel Mind Upgraders. Thank you.